You are joining a presentation of the content of The Curse of Canaan, a demonology of history by Eustace Mullins. And I hope to complete chapter 1 in this video. Okay, so we're in chapter 1 of this book, and Mullins tells us that the Canaanites will begin to spread across the earth. He also brings up the fact that in the Bible, in the New Testament, in the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus encounters a woman who's a Canaanite woman. And he refers to her as a dog. And remember, her response back was, "But even the dogs eat the scraps from the master's table." And so Jesus then works the healing in the life of that woman that was called a dog. I think Mullins brings out a pretty good point here in that even the Lord Jesus Christ used this terminology to talk about the Canaanites. So, was Jesus aware of these evil practices? Obviously, yes. And was Jesus compassionate even upon a descendant of Canaan? Absolutely, yes. Keep in mind that I try to give you content from Eustace Mullins, but I also add a little bit of my own commentary. Now, Mullins will tell us that the chief god of the land of the Canaanites is Baal, B-A-A-L. Now, my footnote on that is anytime you see something in hoax history related to a Baal, B-A-L-L, it's a reference to Baal. For example, Lucille Baal. Lucy, code word for Lucifer, and Baal, code word for Baal. I did some videos on her and some of the strange things that occur in the Lucy, I Love Lucy series, especially the one where they're in Kildonan. Lucy has a dream, and she goes to this town in Scotland in her dream. And the truth of the matter is, in that town they practice human sacrifice. So, although a lot of the Lucy I Love Lucy shows are funny, underneath and underlying is the Canaanite religion of human sacrifice. So you can check that out. On one of my channels, I think it's Real versus R-E-A-L or R-E-E-L. But anyhow, I have lots of channels and I get mixed up where my videos are. So the image that is presented of Baal, the physical image, he says, is of 3 heads, of a cat, a man, and a toad. Now, I never knew that. Of course, the worship of Baal involves ceremonies. And one of the biggest ceremonies that they have, of course, is human sacrifice. Now, has human sacrifice continued to be practiced? It is practiced in the world. Was it practiced here in the United States? If you read the right people and know the right sources to refer to, you'll find out that folks like Benjamin Franklin, yes, practice human sacrifice. Human sacrifice, cannibalism. Remember, those are 2 words put together. Canaanite, Canaans, and Baal, putting together Canaan, and Baal, cannibalism. children given over in sacrifice. And a lot of this is done where? In shrines and groves, hidden. Let me just make a comment here. This is not Mullins' comment, it's mine. Most Masonic temples, they will make sure that the windows are covered up. And in some places, they'll actually brick over the windows. Where I was living in Virginia, one of the local towns, they had a place above a restaurant, and rather than cover the windows, they removed them and put brick there. And you could see where they removed the windows so no one could look in. So the groves and the shrines, the hidden, are right in your own town. Drive by your Masonic temple or lodge area and you'll see. If it does have windows, they cover them up. And if there is an open window, it's just their lobby. But they do not want people to see what they do behind closed doors. And so the windows oftentimes are sealed and you can't look in. Okay, now, Mullins will bring out that a lot of this will spread to the true faith through King Solomon. And incidentally, back to the Masons, that's why the Masons loved Solomon so much. Because although Solomon was given the title like the wisest man on earth because of his wisdom, he later became abominable, and an abomination in the eyes of God, because he compromised the true faith and he reinstituted these dreadful practices of the Canaanites. In fact, I heard one Bible scholar or commentator even question whether King Solomon would be in heaven because of the terrible desecration that he brought to the nation by reinstituting the practices of the Canaanites. Now, two of the most terrible practices that Mullins will point out are the Fire of Moloch, where children are literally thrown into the fire as a sacrifice, and then what's called foundation sacrifice. And that is that when a house is built, they will sacrifice a child, and they will leave the body embedded in the structure somewhere, somehow, some way. So I've heard of other strange things occurring, like I believe it would be the Hindus. When they get to a new house, they bury the head of a serpent or something. I don't know. But anyhow, it's the same idea, that they do this to bring good luck or their blessings of their God or whatever. But again, it's an abomination in the eyes of God. Now that would be on about page 24, just to give you an idea of where I'm at. Okay, so what's going to happen next is that the evil of the Canaanites is not openly discussed. Now, what does he mean by that? Or that's my terminology there. It's purged from history books. It's purged so that it doesn't enter into seminaries. Okay, it's purged. You don't see hardly any trace of it in the educational system, K through 12, or even university level or graduate level. It is very, very hidden and buried. Now, what makes matters worse is that about 1200 BC, before Christ, using the old system of computation of time, the Canaanites disappear. Why? Now, Mullins brings this out over and over again because they just simply changed their name. They will become Phoenicians. And that word Phoenician is derived from the Greek word for purple, because they get a monopoly on the color purple. This may bring about a new insight in our search for truth about the usage of purple in the hoax-lie system. Okay, so the Canaanites now are the Phoenicians in history about 1200 BC. Now they were preparing for this in history by fleeing to the city of Carthage. And he cites this about 900 BC. And the Carthaginians will go to war with the Greeks, and they will survive. However, they will not survive the Roman pillage of Carthage and the destruction of everything there. In fact, I think he says in the city of Carthage, the Romans sowed salt so that it would just sort of like be like an acid or something, eat away at everything, and nobody will even know that there was anything there. And he did say that basically those who are interested in Carthage and the history and all that, they can't find any remnants of it anywhere. Now, Mullins will never ever let us forget that history, the true history, okay, not the hoax history, but the true history that we're all faced with is two diametrically opposed tides of history. And that is the Shemites, which become the Semites. Just drop the H. And the Canaanites, who are the true anti-Semites. Now this really throws a curveball at me, okay? Because it's oftentimes associated with the Jewish folks that people are accused of being anti-Semite. But it's the opposite, because Semite is basically Shemite. So the true anti-Semites are the Canaanites and all the descendants of Ham through Canaan and all the evil ways that they have done. So this terminology that's used very, very frequently of accusation about being an anti-Semite has been reversed. The true anti-Semites, according to Mullins, are the Canaanites. Now the Canaanites will prosper through commerce and trade. And once again, Eustace Mullins reminds us that they are true to the will of Canaan. And it's those 5 points that I brought out to you in previous videos, whereby they are committed to lewdness, robbery, trickery, and never speaking the truth. That's why it's so hard, by the way, to get any accurate information about anything, because they are absolutely sworn to secrecy. As a footnote, you will see sometimes in hospitals that stupid poster of a child with his finger up against his lips, like going, shh. And they try to make it out like, don't talk in the hospital because people are sick. But really and truly, it seems to be a reference to the last point of the will of Canaan. Nobody's to say anything about anything, even if people are getting robbed openly. All right, that was my little comment. It wasn't Mullins. All right, now Mullins will talk about the Christian knights going off to the Crusades. And Mullins' analysis of this is pretty interesting because he says basically they go off to the Crusades and the Canaanites are staying at home and they can't wait to rob and steal while the knights are gone. So this is not Mullins' phrase, it's mine. While the cat is away, the mice will play. So the cat was gone, the knights were gone, the protectors of society are gone, and now, of course, the Canaanites have a feast day, and they will ravish the land. They will commit fraud. They will steal property. According to Mullins, the knights will come home brokenhearted and broke and pretty much eliminated. And he basically says if any of them were left, they were just beggars on the street. Interesting, very interesting. The type of history you're not going to get in your history class in high school or college. So Mullins will never let go of this because it is the truth. The Shemites or Semites, the godly line, versus the anti-Shemites or Semites. And that's the struggle of history. And keep in mind, the accusation of being an anti-Semite has been reversed. That was page 32 of the book. Now, how can we know the difference? How can you know if you're in the presence of a Canaanite? How can you know the difference by what you hear and see around you? Well, Mullins basically gives a biblical answer. It's just by their deeds you will know them. Okay? What exactly is the deed that's being pulled off in front of you? And I don't care who's doing it. I don't care how respected they are in the community. I don't care what position they hold. Is the deed evil? And if it's evil, it's a Canaanite, which means that things have been infiltrated. Politics completely infiltrated. Educational system, yes, infiltrated. Medical system, yes. Sorry to say. Sorry to say. And Mullins will kind of express this concept that I think will echo in all of us as I read it. People of Shem have no idea what's going on. The people of Shem have no idea of what's going on. And then he issues another warning. Remember, the goal of the Canaanites is extermination. Genocide is real. And I have seen plenty of evidence of it within the last year and a half here. Okay, pretty much I've tried to stay with Mullins and give you what Mullins has said. Now I just want to give you just a couple little blurbs of my objections to some things that Mullins has written. Now my first objection is when he talks about the pyramids. Now Mullins it comes up with, who built these pyramids and all that in ancient times. And I'm going to just flat right out and say that's hogwash. Now, you don't have to accept this. In fact, any of my videos, anything I say, no one has to accept anything. I'm only trying to do my best to give accurate information. Based on my research, I am certain that Napoleon built the ancient pyramids in and around the early 1800s. And furthermore, they were basically built by the British because Sir Robert Peel plays Napoleon. Yes, Napoleon's a fake. That's right. Wasn't going across Europe, ravishing towns and cities and killing people. They were pulling hoaxes. War is a hoax. And yes, the Napoleonic Wars were hoaxes too. But I have a video, and I forget where I put it, on what channel. But in my video, I will show you that Sir Robert Peel of England played Napoleon. All right? And Sir Robert Peel is credited with giving us citywide police forces. Thank you, Mr. Robert Peel. He founded the first city police force, and that is why they're called bobbies in England, because it's after his name, Robert. Robert Peel puts on a costume and plays Napoleon. So while Napoleon's army is in Egypt, they're building these things. Armies oftentimes were builders. Now, just a little sideline on that too. When I lived in the Blue Ridge Mountains, there was a church that dated back to the Civil War. And the church was built during the Civil War with the help of Confederate soldiers. So what are they doing building a church? If they're out fighting Northerners, no way. They just built a church. They helped to build it. So this is not impossible. In fact, what I'm telling you makes a lot more sense than a mad man going from town to town, ravishing the whole area and killing people and everything. Basically speaking, history's not composed of war after war after war. Now, where did the phony wars start? I'm not entirely sure, but I'm going to tell you this. I believe that the ancient pyramids were built by Napoleon's army in the early 1800s when he was down that way in Egypt land. All right, so that I object to that about the ancient pyramid stuff. No big deal. Anybody can be misled on that. And the other slight objection I have is it appears that, especially on page 32, Eustace Mullins seems to get real close to making everything an issue of the skin. Now, Mullins can be right on a lot of things and then may can be off on a few things, but his book is worthy of reading and much good information for anyone. Now this concludes chapter number 1, and if you have enjoyed this excursion, please leave me a little note and let me know. I do appreciate your notes left in the comment section, so I know you're watching. And especially if you got to the end of the video, let me know, because I know there's so many folks out there that only want to watch maybe 5 minutes or 7 minutes and they want to move on to another video. So thank you much, and I'll try my best to get through this book, and I appreciate you being right there with me as I'm talking. Thank you, and blessings to you in Christ Jesus.